microalgae are indeed. Now, you might say, that's not quite convincing. So what are the advantages? Why consider microalgae and teach it and prepare our workforce for proper working and handling and dealing with these remarkable and quite a long time around life forms? Well, first of all, they have an enormously fast growth rate. If you treat them right, you hold them at the right conditions, and that's, of course, where the whole R&D comes in all these startups, including my own company, trying to tweak them, trying to communicate to them, talk to them, and eventually make them do that a little more efficiently. But after all, they're microalgae. They have, of course, almost like bacteria, an enormously fast growth rate. If I say that, then I mean within 24 hours, 48 hours, they double their volume, their biomass. And I'll show you some numbers, how this fares with usual plants which we currently use or consider for biofuels production, okay? So they have, of course, much higher sunlight conversion efficiency. Having talked about efficiency with not only humans, it doesn't only play a role for humans, but algae also learned in their long process. They've been around on this planet to very efficiently tap into the solar energy. So just to give you a number, green plants, corn and wheat and agricultural crops we abundantly use for our food production, they only absorb about, or utilize about 1 to 2% of the incoming solar energy. So here we have a life form where we know under optimized conditions, they can 4 or 5 times more. They have a 4 to 5 times higher sunlight utilization efficiency. Very important aspect there as well, which translates later on into less sunlight actually required to make them properly work and do these things and eventually produce these biofuels. So the higher solar conversion efficiency. They're metabolically very versatile. I mentioned that earlier in that previous slide. They can go different ways. Of course, sometimes we haven't learned completely these things. The DOE had a remarkably long-lasting program running, the aquatic species program, until 1986, before it was discontinued and stopped on its track. And at that time, scientists in the United States, in part of this program, they were pretty much getting close to better understanding of how algae tick, how they work, in order to tweak their better understand their metabolic pathways to make them do that what we would like them to do. In this case, of course, producing oils for biofuel, for biodiesel production. So algae oils, they have been just in the last couple of years, and I'm currently extending, and I will talk this a little, touch down on that, what we're currently doing, this tiny little program we have at Mira Costa at this moment. We're trying now to with our students to make them produce tiny amounts of biodiesel. So hopefully one day we can drive a little biodiesel engine around the campus and get some more excitement there. So algae oils have been shown to be suitable for biodiesel production, first of all. So, and I just want to show you what's already happening in some parts of the world. That's a company in Germany called Algomet. They have 1 hectare greenhouse packed with closed-loop algae photobioreactors. That's currently not used and I do know that for a fact. I mean, it's not used for biofuels production at this moment. They use it for nutraceuticals, basically to produce special polyunsaturated fatty acids and antioxidants and the likes. But the technology is there, at least overseas already well running, and so they produce about in this facility with about 1 beautiful greenhouse, brand new established, 1.2 hectares, as I mentioned, that produce about 5 to 6 tons of algae biomass. It seems minuscule and mediocre. It's, after all, as we always start with new technologies, things are humble and very basic, but it's a way forward. And the technology has been there. So I just want to show you, before I go down to into the actual curriculum, which we're establishing now in San Diego, I want to show you quickly how these algae fare with other plants currently used for different types of biofuel production. Corn, for example, you only get about gallons of oil. Hope you're familiar with that. Let me stick with gallons of oil. We're all familiar with gallons per hectare per year. So you have about 45 for corn, canola oil, rapeseed canola oil fares a little better. So we have about 300 gallons of oil per hectare per year in yield. And then we have the algae farming, palm oil, I mentioned, currently used by the Europeans. I know in Berlin, the political VIPs drive around in their biodiesel Mercedes, made from palm oil in Malaysia. Certainly also an ecological concern expressed by a lot of people over there, and which have to be scrutinized and stand scrutinization, no doubt. So palm oil fares very well with about 1,500 gallons of oil per hectare per year. But if you look at, well, there's different numbers you get regarding algae. Algae, everything's new. I mean, it just came back after '86. The program, the ASP program, pretty much declined. Just the last 5-6 years, we have the algae finally back in the arena of discussions and of serious consideration for the issue of biofuel production. But if you compare it, you look at the number which was introduced by Shell, that's about 18,000 gallons of oil, algae oil per hectare per year could be yielded or harvested under, well, that's where everyone's looking for, the optimized conditions. What are, of course, optimized conditions, algae farming. Well, and there's, of course, as always, people that push a little harder, and these are the numbers. We're not always sure how they were scrutinized and how accurate they are. And I'm in the entrepreneurial field. I know how important it is to raise attention. Sometimes 2 minutes. Okay, I speed up things. So we have significantly larger numbers. So I summarized the algae advantage. So we can grow them sustainably. We can even use renewable water, wastewater in order to grow them. Again, any fuel produced by algae, they're carbon neutral, they're non-toxic so far as we know. Based on the current studies, they're biodegradable. So, and here last not least, and I make this a fast-forward biofuels curriculum, just to give you a little bit an idea of what we were doing last year in Mira Costa College, and we're very excited to move forward. Why San Diego? Why did we pick that spot? And when I talked to Mike Fino, with whom I'm working very closely there, and we were saying, well, things are looking green in San Diego. We have, besides, I didn't want to write my own company in there. We haven't quite gotten the money yet, so we're in the process now, hopefully closing in. So we have a lot of companies already established, serving, which hiring on a almost weekly, monthly basis now, I can tell, into their R&D departments. Sapphire, for example, they made headlines 2-3 years ago when they packed a car with their green crude and drove to Washington in order to make themselves a little more visible in this nation. And Verenium, I mentioned earlier, former Diversa, a very well-known company in San Diego. They just sold off their cellulosics, as I mentioned, department, R&D department, to British Petroleum America. And we have synthetic genomics, Greg Venter's new R&D platform in San Diego, an enormously exciting place to work with. I can tell that from my students. Some of them are already there, at least washing dishes so far. I hope they climb up very soon as they learn a little more the basics. And I just want to leave you with, you can look this up then on the NBC's, for those of you more interested, what kind of outline I have for my curriculum there. Pretty much serving, go down to the basics. Just want to show you what we established last year. So here's a little biohydrogen reactor fuel cell component to teach our students that indeed biohydrogen has energy and can be utilized for electricity generation. That's a tiny little play station for our students on the lab bench, where they generate with a microbe biohydrogen and funnel that into a little fuel cell. You can see that on the right side, and they measure the voltmeters, the DC, and that's of course our proud and most visible piece of equipment we currently have at Mira Costa. We have a photobioreactor where we teach our students how to propagate algae, how to study them. And what we're trying to do now, and that's pretty much all curricular development in progress, we're trying now to, of course, we harvested the algae already. You see some algae dry biomass, and what we're doing next, we hope get some funding in from the NSF and other sources to really boost this program to the next level. So we want to generate, of course, biodiesel. Our students learn how to make biodiesel from algae oil and basically do the analysis, the quality control analysis, in order to make this a marketable product down the road. Thank you so much for your attention.